Right now, I want to bring in Senate Foreign Relations Committee Chairman Robert Menendez. He's backed the president on Syria, and he says Bashar al-Assad is, quote, a consummate liar. Welcome to you, Senator. What is your reaction to the president's speech tonight?
Well, I think the president went step by step in directly responding to the concerns of the American people, and I think effectively made the case as to why those concerns are either unfounded to some degree in some cases, can be met in other cases, and the reason why it is important to be able to respond to the use of Assad's use of chemical weapons against innocent civilians beyond Syria and in the context of the world for others who may have those access to chemical weapons as well.
But if the president feels this strongly about these atrocities, likening them to what happened with the Nazis in the Second World War, it does prompt the question, why has he not taken action so far? He has the power to do so.
Well, yes, I personally believe that under the War Powers Act, he could have had an action that wouldn't have extended beyond 60 days. If it did, then he had to come to the Congress after that. But I think he's made the case that we are stronger as a nation in our resolve internationally as well when we have the support of the Congress behind the president in such an action. And I think that is what he has tried to do. And I think that tonight, hopefully, the American people who are riveted now on this issue had an opportunity to hear their concerns allayed and hopefully say to their members of Congress that under these limited circumstances, I can understand why the president needs to proceed.
My colleague Jake Tapper has just tweeted a speech to a public that doesn't want to go to war by a president who doesn't want to go to war. And that is certainly the impression that I got listening to him. If this vote eventually takes place and he was to lose it, he still has the power, if he wants to take the action that he believes is necessary. But he's boxed himself into a really difficult corner now, hasn't he?
Well, look, I believe that, number one, we'll have to see whether this diplomatic effort is real. I'm skeptical, but I'm hopeful at the end of the day. And we'll test the resolve of both Russia and Syria in the United Nations Security Council, I believe, relatively quickly. And then the world will understand that all the diplomatic efforts we've led for the last 2 years, which have been vetoed by Russia, whether Russia and Syria are serious in this regard. And if not, I think it strengthened the president's hand for the vote that would be pursued here in the Congress.
You called Assad a consummate liar, and I don't think there's a huge amount of trust in Vladimir Putin either. And yet these are the two people that the American administration now appear to be entrusting in relation to chemical weapons. It's a pretty rum state of affairs, isn't it?
Well, look, Piers, number one is I do believe I call Assad a pathological liar. Here's someone who told us he never had chemical weapons and now admits that he does. Here's someone who said no attack took place. We know an attack took place. And so I'm not depending upon Assad, but I am depending upon the international community. If we get a binding resolution at the Security Council, then it will be beyond Assad's word. It will have the force of the international community saying, you committed to this, you need to do it, and if not, there are consequences to it.
To remove the amount of chemical weapons that Assad is believed to have, if you play by the book, according to the UN Inspector's Guide, could take up to 10 years.
Well, access to those weapons and securing them, I think what those estimates of how long it would take to destroy them may be different, but access to those weapons, and I believe being able to harness those weapons in a location or locations in which the international community can secure them as they seek to destroy them, is a critical movement forward. And so I don't think that that should be a deterrent to our effort to get a binding UN Security Council resolution. The real question here is whether Russia, which I've read some reports today, is beginning to back off of a Security Council resolution that would have the force of the international community and, I believe, would probably have sanctions for Syria's unwillingness to comply to what the Council passed would be very significant. And I believe the only reason we're even talking about the possibility of Syria submitting to this and Russia being behind it is because of the use of credible military force on the table and the Russians recalculating about what the consequences to Assad would be in their own interests. Otherwise, I doubt very much, after 2 years of intransigence and veto by Russia at the Security Council and Assad even denying that he had chemical weapons, that we'd be at this point today.
But the Russians have obviously got a lot of positive reaction from the Americans today and last night by suggesting that they were going to be orchestrating some kind of deal over these weapons. But then late today, they make it pretty clear that they would veto anything that did not involve America saying we will not use any military action regardless. America can't sign up to that. It would make them look completely impotent. And you can't avoid reaching the rather chilling conclusion that America may just have been played here by the Russians for Russian self-interest.
Well, first of all, I don't think it's about American impotence. It will be about the global community's impotence if they see that the Russians are unwilling to have a binding Security Council resolution. Now, the use of American force, if there is a Security Council resolution with a Chapter 7 authorization to strike against Syria, if Syria does not comply with turning over all of its chemical weapons, letting UN inspectors total and free unfettered access to them, and ultimately acquiring those weapons, would be an international response at that point.
Senator, thank you very much indeed for joining me.
Thank you.